Today I'm going to be making my Christmas themed junk journal and also bringing you along for the process of starting to decorate the pages as well and make some ephemera. So I'm starting off with a base here. This is just some cardboard packaging. So essentially I just let the shape of the box dictate the size of the journal that I was going to use, and I thought that it would be a cool shape to use because the spine is a lot thicker than I normally have on my junk journal. So I thought that would be an interesting way to include some more pages within this journal. And as you've seen from the papers that I picked out, I have a real assortment of different papers. I have like scrap papers from other projects, I have tea-dyed papers, book papers, I have doilies, papers that I've painted, just anything I could get my hands on basically to upcycle into this junk journal. So I'm cutting the paper to size and checking that it fits within the cover, and then I'm just using this as a bit of a base then to cut the rest of the pages. So I'm not quite sure what the exact size of this journal is. Like I said, I literally just took a box and thought, let's just make a journal that's that size. So if you're not wanting to do any like precise measuring, which if you're familiar with my channel, you'll know that I don't do any measuring, I just eyeball things. So I wanted to have a collection of papers that were also different shapes and sizes as well, because I thought for a journal in this format, having pages that would be layered would be really fun, because with the thicker spine, once I open the journal, you kind of see the edges of more pages, which you'll see once the journal is bound. I ended up going with 5 signatures to spread out the pages that I have. And I didn't count how many pages I have either. I just sort of, again, put in the number of pages that felt right. I did a mix of some that are thicker. So there's a few pages that are more like card, or I think they might even be watercolor paper that I have previously tea dyed. But then I also have some thinner pages like the doily there, like the brown paper packaging, which is a little bit thinner. So I was just mixing and matching all of the different textures that I could find, and I think that makes for a really nice base for a junk journal. And with this being Christmas themed, I went for something that had a neutral base so that I could add on to it then all of the embellishments and the colours, and so I wasn't like pigeonholing myself almost into a particular colour scheme, because when it comes to like festive decorations, you can go for so many different colours. Like you can go for reds, the greens, the golds, but you can also have that more like wintry blues and whites and silvers. So I wanted to create a base that would work with a lot of different embellishments that I wanted to add onto this journal, and I'm really looking forward to decorating this and working within these square pages that I have created. I normally go with something that's a bit more like A6-ish kind of shape, so it was fun to work in a journal of a different size. So as you can see there, I created a grid on the spine so that I knew where I was going to poke the holes for the signatures that I was going to include. So I made sure they were roughly evenly spaced out so that I could add the 5 different signatures. I used a clip there just to keep all the pages in place as I was poking the holes and doing the sewing. And then I just used a pencil to mark where I was going to poke the holes. Used my needle very carefully to add the holes to the sides of the signatures here, and then I used just some gold and white thread here to bind the papers to the journal to match with the Christmassy theme that I have going on for this journal. And I thought that it would complement the craft sort of vibe that I've got going on, and I'm not sure what I'm going to end up doing to decorate the cover itself, because I definitely don't want to leave it blank. But what I'm envisioning is, you know, on Pinterest when you see presents wrapped up but people have done like stamping onto craft paper, that's kind of the vibe that I'm going for the cover, I think, because I definitely don't want it to be like all singing all dancing Christmas. I want it to be quite subdued but still have that nod to it. So keeping things sort of neutral, having those pops of those different colours, but a lot more sort of refined, I guess, and keeping it, me when it comes to Christmassy stuff, because I don't like over the top Christmassy stuff. I wanted to keep it very subtle, but also still have the sparkle. So that's why I think using the gold thread was a really nice touch for binding this journal together. And as you can see there, I've got all 5 of my signatures sewn into my journal, and I really like the chunky way that this journal looks. And you'll notice that I've left a lot of room for this journal to grow, so for me to add embellishments and all sorts of fun things within this journal. So now I'm going to show you 10 different ways that I have started to embellish and decorate this Christmas themed junk journal, and I'm excited that the lovely folks over at Tapeology have kindly sponsored this video and sent me their Christmas rub-on stickers to show you guys and use within this journal. You know me, I love my rub-on stickers. I use them all the time, all the different floral ones, and so what's better than some Christmas themed ones? As you can see here, each of the packs has 6 sheets full of festive designs, and there's also different colour schemes to use as well. So you've got the traditional Christmas, you've also got the wintry tones that I was mentioning earlier as well, and I really love the design of these. They're giving very much like vintage Christmas, which is right up my alley. And as you'll see from the different embellishments we're going to create, the rub-on stickers are really versatile in how you can use them. So Tapeology also sent me some wooden tags, some regular paper tabs, and also some fabric to use these rub-ons on. And so I'm really excited to dive straight in. And Tapeology have also given me an exclusive discount code for you guys. So if you are interested in the Christmas rub-on collection or anything on the Tapeology website, you can get 15% off using my code MEG15. I will leave the link to their website down below in the description box, where you'll find everything that I'm using within this video. So thank you again to Tapeology for sponsoring this video, and let's dive into making some Christmas festive themed junk journal embellishments. And of course, you guys know I will be upcycling and repurposing the packaging, because that's just what we do as junk journalers. So I wanted to start off with one of my favourite ways to use rub-on stickers within my journals, and that is to create a collage cluster. So I like to use a range of different papers for this, like book papers. I've even used tissue paper in this example, and layer them up, have those torn edges, normally towards like a edge of a page or on a corner, and create a textured clustered layered effect with different papers. And then because the rub-on stickers adhere really well to a range of different surfaces, it's the perfect addition, I think, to a collage cluster, because you can add them on top of the papers and they don't add too much bulk as well. So what I've done is just laid down a fairly neutral base for this, mixing up a few of the different elements. I even came in with one of my Neo colours just to add a few like scribbles and make it like a little bit more mixed media and have that interest. I even came in with a little bit of washi tape just to add some contrast and just some extra details as well before I came in with the rub-on stickers. So I was really trying to have that sort of central focal point ready to add the rub-on stickers to, so you can kind of see where I'm building up the place where I'm then going to attach the rub-on sticker. So I'm just going to cut it out from the sheet. I ended up going for this page with a bit more of a like floral Christmas theme almost, so I picked out some of the more like leafy designs, which just reminded me like of, wreaths, which I thought would be really nice for this neutral page. And then I just decided where I would like them to go on the page. So you can see here I've kind of focused it overlapping onto my elements, and I think that's a really nice way to make it blend into the page. And one of my favorite things about rub-ons is just the way that they melt so seamlessly into a page. And it's a lot different to a regular sticker where I think you can see that it's a sticker, but it really does merge into the page. And I really love the way that that looks on clusters like this where you have all the different texture. And so I added another leaf here up at the top just to fill in that gap, and I think that it complemented nicely. So that was my little collage cluster there for a bit of an opening page for this journal. One of my favourite things about rub-on stickers is the way that they look on a text background. So I have this just like scrap of book paper here. It's got a really aged effect, and I thought that that would be fitting for this journal. So what I decided to do was add this rub-on onto the paper, and then I used it as a tuck spot within the journal page. So I was picking the place that I wanted it on the book page. So you can see I've kind of picked towards the edge, so I have a little bit of text, but then also a little bit of that blank space as well, which is really nice, I think, just to balance it out and so it doesn't look too busy on the page. And I kept the torn, ripped edges just for that sort of organic feel to the page. I didn't want things to look too like neat and rigid for this journal. I think that that sort of fits the aesthetic almost that I've been making with the pages. And then I just grabbed my stapler and attached it to the edge of the page, made sure that I liked the placement of it. So I did 2 staples along the right hand side, one along the bottom, and that's created a little tuck spot here for a tag, or you could add photos, you could add little notes, and it's just a nice sweet way to add extras to your journal. Okay, so now I'm going to create a layered tag that I can include within this journal, more of an ephemeral item rather than something fixed into the journal. So I could move it around and add it onto any of the pages if I wanted to. So I'm using these tags and I picked out 2 different sizes, so a smaller one and then a slightly larger one. And what I did was picked out a couple of the rub-on stickers that sort of fit the shape and the design of the tags that I'd picked out. So again, I went more down the botanical route here with the greenery, and this one here fit into the circular element that I have on this tag really well. So I just sort of positioned it as if it was going to be almost a bit like a wreath, and I think that way then it anchored really nicely into the design of the tag itself. So rather than feeling like it was just added straight onto the tag and sort of floating, I decided to have it sort of blend in with the design, which with the way that the rub-on stickers melt into your page, I think works really well for a tag like this. And then I also added the leafy part here to the left hand side of this tag because I knew that I was going to layer up these tags, so I wanted to add this element onto the left hand side so that when I combine them, you'll still be able to see that with the layered effect of the tag when I attach them together. So I also chose a design that complemented the fact that this tag was a little taller, so it kind of draws your eye upwards as well. And there's a few text elements on these rub-on sticker sheets, so I decided to pick out the Merry Christmas one. I really liked the font of this one, and I think it went nicely just to have a little bit of text on the first tag, and then that way then the one that's going to be underneath is left blank. If I wanted to like add a little bit of journaling, you could use that as a spot to do some writing or whatever you want to include. It could be a photo onto the journal. And so I also added a few of the little snowflakes as well, so they're kind of dotted throughout the design. So I just picked out a few of them and sprinkled them almost onto the front of this tag just to help fill up a few of the, I don't want to call them empty spaces, but I just felt like it needed a little something extra, if you know what I mean. And so I thought that they were the perfect little touch for adding. And so you can see here how it looks once they are layered up together, and you can see how I'm able to lift that. So what I did was I poked a hole carefully with a needle, and then I added a brad here to attach them, so that way then I can move the tag on the front and you can sort of lift it up and still be able to access the one underneath. And I just think that that was a really nice way to combine the two tags, and I left it a little bit off-centered as well, just to make sure you could really see that layered effect. So I'm just adding it into the journal here with a paper clip so that I can remove it if I want to, or move it throughout the journal. Now, I love to add tabs onto the edges of pages in my junk journals, and I've even added like fabric and ribbon ones before, but something I haven't tried is actually adding rub-ons onto fabric, and I must have missed this because I didn't actually know that rub-ons adhered to fabric really well. They don't go sort of stiff, they're still flexible on the fabric, because I've only ever applied them to paper, so this was actually really fun to do. So I picked out a couple of the smaller designs, and what I decided to do was add them onto the fabric. So I cut a long strip here so that it was the width that I wanted a tab to be. And then I just positioned the rub-on onto the end there of the fabric and just rubbed it on and made sure I was pressing really firmly, because I'd never done this before, so I was trying to make sure that I was doing it right. And luckily it turned out really pretty, so you can see there the way that it looks on the fabric. And I then just sort of folded it in half to be the width that I wanted the tab to be on my journal page, and cut off the excess fabric, and then I'm going to attach it to one of the pages here in the journal. So I'm just picking one of the pages that is a little bit plainer. So I have some tea-dyed papers here within the journal pages, and I just used my trusty stapler to attach it, and look how cute it looks. I really love the way that the fabric tabs look within this junk journal in particular. I think it just really adds to the effect of this more like scrappy junk journal that I've got going on, but I just think it looks really sweet. This little like reindeer one here is almost a bit like a postage stamp, so I thought that would be perfect to add to this page as well. Okay, so next I'm gonna add a pocket to this journal, because what would a junk journal be without a good pocket? And I decided to do this one as an embellished pocket, so it's a little bit like the collage cluster that I did, except I just added a few different elements to the front, and then also came in with a rub-on as part of the design as well. And I used a I don't know if it's glassine or if it's like a plasticky type packaging, but it was what the labels from the tags came in, and so you know that I'm always saving every bit of packaging to repurpose. So this was a truly upcycled little envelope slash pocket that I created here, and so I wasn't sure because the surface was quite like slippy almost. It was really smooth, but the rub-on actually adhered really well to this surface. I don't quite know how to describe it, because it was like a matte sort of really smooth piece of plastic, but it's a really lovely material actually for a envelope within this junk journal. And you can see there how well it blends in with the collage elements. So I wanted to have something to tuck into this pocket, so I used one of these tags, but I just trimmed it to size so that it wouldn't stick out of this journal, because I've used quite a different size of journal. Like I basically just used the cardboard cover that I had and was like, this is the size journal that it's going to be. So it's a square, but I'm not quite sure on the exact dimensions. I just sort of eyeballed everything, but I knew I had to cut this tag down in order for it to fit in the journal. But I included some ribbon on the top for being able to pull it in and out of this little pocket, and I don't mind the ribbon poking out. I actually quite like the way that it looks when ribbon and strings and other things are kind of falling out of the edges of a junk journal. So I just adhered it to a page there, and that is my pocket. I love the way that tracing paper and vellum looks as pages within my junk journals, and when I bound this one I realised that I didn't actually include any vellum or tracing paper pages within it, and we just couldn't have that, so I knew I needed to do some tip-ins and add some extra pages. Tipping in tracing paper or any other papers with just some washi tape is a super easy way to add layers and extra pages and just room to journal. So I just tore some tracing paper to size here, and as you'll see, I didn't do it the entire width of the journal because I really like the way that working in a bound journal like this, you have pages that are different sizes and you can kind of see different elements throughout and have that layered effect. So I added this tracing paper to the journal and then came in with a rub-on sticker to add a border along the edge. So I picked out a couple of designs from the rub-on sticker sheets that fit the size and shape that I wanted for adding as a border along the edge of the tracing paper, and I really love the way that this creates such like a soft and layered look to the design of this page. It's really delicate and translucent and just gives such a nice decorative touch, I think, for some of the pages, and it's, you know, a little bit different because the way that it sort of almost looks like it's floating on the page, but then you see all of the different elements underneath, so you really do get that lovely layered effect. So that was one that had a more sort of minimalistic design, and I also went with this one here that had a lot more like foliage and some flowers, and I think that this looked really nice as well along the edge of the tracing paper here. I really love the effect of the rub-ons with the tracing paper and having them as a bit of a border page. So this is definitely something I can see where you could write with like a white pen and have that be a really like dainty minimalist page within a journal like this. So again, I'm just attaching this with some washi. This is one that has a bit of a like script design, so a little bit of contrast on this page. But if you wanted to add a tracing paper element and it be a bit more hidden almost in the way that it's added, you could definitely pick a clear tape or even like a clear matte tape just to really blend in with the tracing paper. But you can see here how I've added this one, and I've sort of moved it over to the right hand side a little bit so that it peeks out from the page that's in front of it, so you can still see it when the pages are turned. Now for this next piece of ephemera, I'm going to create a journal card. So this is a really easy way to add a little something extra to your journals, whether it's for notes or for quotes or just for adding decorative elements, whatever you want to your journal. So I decided to use these bells here because the white and sort of cool tones of this rub-on I think complemented the colour of the card that I'm using here really well, and I picked a size that would fit nicely within the journal page. So I used the rub-on sticker as a bit of a decorative element on the left hand side. I was toying around with where I wanted to include it, but I decided to use it on the left hand side. And so I came in then with just my white Uniball Signo. So this is one of my favourite pens, and you can tell that it's one of my favourite pens because this one's running out and I need to get a new one. So I had to actually go over the lettering just to make sure that the white pen actually showed up on the dark green card that I'm using here. But I really liked the contrast that this gave, and the white and sort of silvery blues had such a nice pop, and I think it was a really nice element to add to this like Christmas festive style journal, because a few of the elements that I've been adding have been more that sort of traditional reddish Christmas, and so I think that this was just a nice way to add like one of those other color schemes that you see around this time of year, because I often feel there's like, you're either in the camp of red and gold being like the traditional Christmas colors, maybe with some green in there as well, or you have the sort of more modern style where it's more these like cooler tones, the blues, the silvers. So let me know which team you're on when it comes to the colors of the decorations that you choose. I think I'm more of a traditional lover. I really like sort of wooden and like Hessian touches as well, bits of like fabric. So yeah, let me know what team you are when it comes to the colour scheme that you gravitate towards for Christmas stuff. But I really like the way that this green popped on the page, and I just added it there with a paper clip onto the page itself. Okay, so we've done tracing paper, we've done fabric. I'm now going to create a layered effect on top of one of these wooden tags. So I'm just picking out a few of the elements that I think will layer up nicely. So one of the fun things that I like to do with my rub-on stickers is to layer them, and because they are so like flat and seamless on a page and not adding bulk, you can definitely do this and create, more of a unique effect with them. So rather than just having them be like static little images on their own, you can create more of almost a bit of a scene. But I like to group them together and have them layered up, and I really like the way that that looks. So I chose a few that I thought would go well together, and I'm just adding them onto the wooden tag, as you can see here, and they blended so seamlessly into this, like you wouldn't even think that I had added them on. Like if I told you that this just came like printed on the tag, like that's how good it looks on the wooden surface. So I just sort of focused here on the bottom like edge of this tag here, and you can see there it's the perfect little addition. So I could add some writing onto this tag, I could add like maybe I could stick a photo onto it. It just creates the perfect surface then for adding some extra elements into my journal. So of course I needed to add a little bit of string, so I just used this like gold and white twine here, layered it up a few times just to create like a thicker effect on this, trimmed off some of the edges there that looked just a little bit unsightly, neatened it all up, made it all look nice and tidy, and then there is my wooden tag that I wanted to add into the journal. So with it being a obviously heavier item compared to just like a paper or a card tag, I wanted to make sure that it had a really secure home within this journal. So here's another one of those like plasticky type recycled envelopes that I had saved, and it was the perfect place to include the tag. Now I'm going to add another fabric element to this journal, and I'm going to cut to size some of this cloth so that I can use it as a tipped in piece within this journal. So I'm just checking that I've got the right like height and width of this fabric, and I thought that it would be really nice to do a bit of a like extended page almost. So you'll notice I've got a few of the pages in this journal where they're not the full size of a journal page, so they might be a little bit shorter, or not the full width of the journal itself. And so what I did was I used this as a way to attach this fabric to the journal itself. So I'm just making sure that it's the right size that I want, and just taking off any of those little bits that were fraying there. Of course, this is the type of fabric that will eventually like fray a little bit more, but it definitely adds to the sort of entire look I think that I'm going for with this journal. And what I decided to do was actually add a larger rub-on sticker element to this. So there was this big Christmas tree here, which I thought would be the perfect element just to add to this fabric because it's definitely got that more like natural vibe. So I wanted to have that as a bit of a focal piece, and because I've added a lot of the smaller rub-on stickers and I've layered them up, but I wanted to just go, full impact here with one of the larger rub-ons. And I love the way that it blended into the fabric and the end result wasn't stiff, it was still flexible, so it worked really well as an element to have as a page, because obviously I would be turning this and sort of flipping through the journal. So as you can see here, I'm going to show you like you still have that flexibility on the fabric itself, so it's not going to feel sort of like stiff within the journal. And you can see there's the page that I'm going to attach this to. So I ended up using a bit of a strange combination of, I added a staple at the bottom, but then I also fixed it with some washi tape and then a bit of glue just to make sure that it wouldn't come loose. I think I was just getting a little bit worried about adding the fabric and making sure that it was like really secure on the page, because I like to use a glue stick and I knew that that wasn't always going to work with fabric. So hopefully by stapling it in as well, it's going to be nice and secure. And here is the final result with it tipped in to the journal, and it's like it was always a page within the journal itself. So this next decoration that I added to the journal sort of combines a few of the different ones we've talked about previously. So the concept of using some of the smaller rub-ons that are dotted throughout the sheets. I picked out these gold snowflakes and stars and layered them up onto one of these wooden tags. So I decided just to have them go all across the tag as a bit of a like, almost as if they'd been sprinkled across the tab itself. And I really liked the way that it was just like gold, and had that real festive feel to it. So I just used a few of the different sizes here, as you can see, some larger ones and some smaller ones. And what I ended up doing was adding this tab to the top of a page. So it didn't stick out because I didn't really want the wooden tab to stick out in the same way as the fabric ones, just because they are a little bit more rigid, and so I didn't think that that would be the effect that I wanted to go for with this journal. So unlike the other wooden tag that I created where I can take that in and out of the journal, this is an element that is fixed within the journal page itself. So it's definitely more a tab in that sense, but it's just a tab that's inside the pages. And sometimes I have done that in previous junk journals actually, where I'll take a tab and I'll either like make sure it's like pushed in completely onto the page so there's no overhang, but it's still there as a design element, or I will turn it like almost not inside out, but I'll have it facing like the wrong way, so it's almost like a tab to inside the page, if that makes sense. So it's still a tab in that sense, but I just wanted it more on the edge of a page rather than having that overhanging look that you have sometimes with tabs. So that's the way that I approached this element. As you'll see here now, I'm adding it to a page. So I actually picked one of the brown paper pages that I included within this junk journal so that there would be the contrast with the tag and so that it would pop off the page. And I actually fastened this onto the page with another brad, so this was repurposing some more packaging in true junk journaling style. So there was this brad with some white ribbon, and I thought that this would be perfect to include on a tag like this because it really worked well with the colours. You have the gold of the brad as well, which I think complemented the gold snowflakes and stars on this tab, and I think this was just a really sweet way to embellish one of these pages. And it's now ready to include some journaling on, or whatever I feel like adding onto a page like this. So I hope you've enjoyed coming along and decorating this Christmassy junk journal with me. I will be sharing more of me working within this little journal, so I hope you enjoyed joining me for this. Thank you again to Typology for sponsoring this video, and I will see you in the next one.